Exodus chapter 17. In verse 8. Now Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim, and Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill, and so it was, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. But when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands became heavy. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this for a memorial in the book, and recount it in the hearing of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven." And Moses built an altar and called its name, "The Lord is my banner." For he said, because the Lord had sworn, the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation.
Amen.
Amen. Let somebody just tell them, keep your hands up.
Keep your hands up.
Keep your hands up.
Keep your hands up. Amen.
For the last several weeks, we have been discussing what happens when God flips the script. We've been dealing mainly with the life of Moses. We started with his end, that because of his disobedience, he was unable to enter into the promised land. And we began to look at some things that God was trying to teach Moses. One of the first things that we learned was that God was trying to move him out of self-sufficiency. The idea that I got this, I can do this on my own, I don't need anybody else. We learned that the second thing that God was trying to teach him was to learn how to connect or partner with other people. That we're not in this race alone. We're not here by ourselves. The old poem says, no man is an island. We can't do everything on our own.
Amen.
We can't run this race on our own. We can't do everything. Matter of fact, we're not designed. God didn't design us to do everything on our own. The Bible says that when he created male, he also created female as a what? As a helpmate. In other words, it takes two to make something work. No one is designed to do anything on their own. The Bible said that when he created Adam, the first thing he said was, "It is not good." Not that man ain't good. I clarified it. Men are real good. There, can I get a witness? Thank you. Can I get two?
We are.
Can I get three? Amen. Thank you. Nobody else believe it. We believe it. He created man, and then he said, it is not good that he should be alone. It is not good for any of us to be alone. One of the dangerous things in life is to isolate yourself. We see this all throughout Moses' life when he ran and started living in the wilderness. He isolated himself. Many suicides happen because people isolate themselves. We talked about it last week that if you're going to run this race, if you're going to be everything that God has called you to be, at some point in time, you're going to have to be a people person.
Amen.
Oh, y'all don't like that. I know y'all don't like people. I don't do people. That means you don't do yourself. That becomes the issue. Lord help me today. When you isolate yourself, you cut out the possibilities that God has on your life.
Amen.
When God works, hear this, y'all get nothing else. When God, excuse me.
Wow.
When God works, he often works through people.
Amen. All right.
Let me say it another way. When God moves in your life, he often moves through people. Okay, say it another way. When God blesses you, he usually blesses you through other people.
Amen. Amen.
I'm not a people person. Park there for a minute. Because we don't want to limit the possibilities on our lives. So we learned last week. It was kind of rough last week. I'm trying to help y'all move past last week. Because we talked about this idea of if we're going to be everything that God has called us to be, and if we're going to come out of these limitations, and if we're going to stop going in circles like the children of Israel were in a circle in the wilderness for 40 years, we must learn to retool. We must learn to come out of our comfort zone. That some things are just not working. And therefore, we must learn to hear what God is saying now, not what he said last week. In other words, because God is a God of progression. He's a God who moves. He moves forward. And even though he may have said something last week, many of us are clinging to what he said last week and missing what he's saying this week. But last week he told Moses, strike the rock. The next week he said, speak to the rock. We get so used to striking the rock that when God says speak, we missed it because God always uses me to strike the rock. God always uses me, here we go, with the gift he gave me. What if God don't want your gift this week? What if God don't want to use that you think is your strong point?
Wow.
I'm preaching to myself. myself. Y'all just listening. What if the thing that you're so used to, God says, now we're in a different season, I want to do something new? That's scary. I mean, what if God said to me, I no longer want to use you musically? I want to use you in another way. What if he wants to use me in an area that I have deemed I am weak in and I'm not good at that? For that's what he did with Moses. For in the very beginning, Moses said, the first thing he said was, I don't talk good. Now, you watch this. You can use me, but not that way. God said, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Now, I'm willing to obey, but just can we not do it that way? Because I don't speak good. He says, I'm not eloquent in speech. He really was saying I stutter a lot. And because I stutter a lot, people will make fun of me, and I feel that I will not be effective. But what if God is saying, the thing that makes you weak is the thing I want to use to make you effective? Rough, huh? But God is calling us to retool, to come out of our comfort zone, so that we might obtain that he is trying to give to us. Retooling is both spiritual and natural. We'll see this in the text in a minute. But it is both spiritual and natural. In the natural realm, you must do something. And in the spirit realm, you must do something. It is not one or the other, it's and both. When we come to this text, and we've looked at it before, we look at it from a different lens. Here, God had just blessed them. They were thirsty. God told them to strike the rock. He struck the rock. Water came out of the rock. The children of Israel were blessed. And then all of a sudden, they were attacked. I want to speak to somebody who feels like you are under attack.
All right.
Maybe I'm talking to myself, y'all quiet. So y'all tell me how to get to where y'all at. I'm under attack. Y'all got it good. Y'all blessed. Y'all blessed. Maybe y'all need this next week. I don't know. So I'm just going to talk to you anyway. I want to talk to people who watch this, who seemingly have experienced victories in one area and attack in another area. They were blessed miraculously with water from a rock. And the Bible says, out of nowhere, here comes Amalek to attack the children of Israel. I want to talk to attacked folk. In whatever area. We get attacked in several areas of our lives. So this, you just fill in the blank. The text says that Amalek came up against God's people. In verse 9. And Moses says to Joshua, he says, choose us some men, go out and fight. Moses speaks to Joshua. Joshua represents this next generation that will go into the promised land. And Moses speaks, or he goes to Joshua, signifying we cannot do this on our own. Listen, that we're going to need some help. He goes to Joshua and he says, choose some men so we can go out and fight. Tomorrow I will stand on top of a hill. Now, in one sense, the Bible says that when Moses died, he was 120 and he still had vigor and he still had sight. But Moses also realized, in one sense, I'm too old to be doing all this fighting. Realize, people, there are some things you are not equipped to do. Why? Because God didn't equip you for it. Don't miss that.
Wow.
Remember we talk about this divine limitations. There are some things you're trying to do, but you're not equipped to do it. Y'all rebuking the devil? Y'all quoting Philippians, I can do all things. And God has said, this ain't one of the alls. I didn't equip you for that. Watch this. But I am placing somebody in your life who I have equipped to come along beside you and to help you.
Amen.
Y'all stop turning everybody away. Y'all praying for the right one, he done came and y'all done sent him on his way. Because you was speaking 7 feet 2 and he 4'2". So you just know he ain't the one. But God sent him and equipped him with exactly what you needed. 4'2" and all. And if you can just look past the 4'2", Dr. said she gave it back. Sometimes you gotta look down to your blessing. Y'all missing out. Anyway, where was I? Because some things God did not equip you for.
Amen.
So he tells Joshua, he says, you pick the man to fight, I'm going up the hill. In other words, you got a part, I got a part. Watch this. So Joshua did as Moses said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Here's our problem. We're going up the hill by ourselves. When God is taking you somewhere, usually He's going to send help with you. The Bible says that Moses says, watch this, he says, tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill. But the next verse says that Moses, Aaron, and Hur goes up the hill.
Yes.
What if Moses had told them, I don't need y'all, I got this.
Come on, Pastor.
I got this. Me and God, we got this. But the text says that Moses, Aaron, and Hur, watch this, because God already knew what was going to happen on top of that hill, and He was preparing Moses, even though Moses didn't know himself.
Right.
Sometimes God is preparing stuff for you. He prepares the table before me in the presence of men. Sometimes God is preparing stuff for you. He don't tell you, but because He knows what's up the road, He knows what's going to happen. He's already prepared help for you for when you get to a point that you're going to need the help. Your problem is you don't need help right now, so you turn everybody away. Not realizing at some point in time in my life, I'm going to need help.
Amen.
So He prepares the way, and He sends Moses, He sends Aaron and Hur to go with Moses. Who's going with you? Who's in your life that goes up the hill with you? Who's in your life that will help you climb up the hill? Y'all missed it. See, it's not before he gets to the hill, he got to climb up the hill.
Yeah.
Y'all ever went hiking?
Yes. I can't see that.
Y'all know that hill? Over by Gosler Park? It's a by the park. And it's a hill. Yeah, I used to walk that hill. And cars pass by, we want to do this. Just drive me on up. Because there's another hill in the park that I got to go up. So just, if you help me up this hill, I'll be all right, but nobody will stop. Some days I almost didn't make it home. Because I was by myself, trying to go up the hill. What happens if you're all by yourself going up the hill and you faint? That's what happens to a lot of believers. You wonder what happened to them? They fainted.
Come on.
And nobody was around because they had isolated themselves. They didn't take nobody up the hill. You need some good friends to go up the hill with you in life. You need at least two. One on one side and one on the other that will help you go up the hill and not pull you down. Most of us got folk in our lives, all they want to do is pull you down the hill, not lift you and push you up the hill. Get rid of them.
Right. Amen.
Who in your life will go up the hill with you? Who in your life will stick with you when the hill gets hard to climb? Who in your life will love you enough to walk up that hill with you with your mean self. Who love you enough to walk up that hill with you when that other person shows up? Don't y'all act like y'all don't have another person. If you've been washed in the blood of the Lamb, that other person is just covered by the blood. They ain't left. And every now and then, that other person shows up. Who loves you enough to deal with the other person? They're the friends you need.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
See, I see that other person, but come on, let's go.
Right. Come on, girl.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Because your other person will drive them away. Intentionally.
Right.
Y'all be mean on purpose so they'll leave. Y'all never done that? Y'all just never been mean on purpose just to get rid of somebody? You didn't really mean it, but you know if I be mean enough, they're going to leave me alone. I think Moses had some meanness in him. He did kill a man, y'all know. You don't just wake up and kill somebody and go back to being nice.
Come on.
Bible says they go up the hill with him. And so it was. Here we go. When Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. When Moses held up his hand, Israel would win. Israel is down in the valley. He's on top of the mountain. And he goes to the top of the mountain and he holds up his hand. Remember I said it is both spiritual and natural. That something happened when he held up his hand. When he held up his hand, it was spiritual. But as he did something spiritual, something happened in the natural. It's not that he just lifted up his hand, but something happened in the lifting of the hand. There is a praise word called Yada that means to lift up the hand. It is an act of surrender. It is when the police say stop, and then they say hold your hands up, because this is an act of surrender that shows them that you are rendered helpless at this point. With your hands up, you are now vulnerable. The problem with most saints is nobody wants to be vulnerable to God. But the Bible says he holds his hand up, watch this, as an act of praise. That when you praise, you prevail. Y'all miss that? That as long as he praised God, as long as his hands were up, Israel would win. As long as your hands are up, as long as you have a Remember, it is both spiritual and natural. You must do something in the natural and you must do something in the spirit. Most of us do one or the other. And one doesn't necessarily work without the other. Let me help you. I was looking at the material that Pastor Eric had given out yesterday for the financial.
Yes.
And I noticed something. There is this thing of having credit.
Come on.
The issue sometimes is not having credit, it's knowing how to use credit. It's not just having it, it's knowing when to use it.
Yeah.
Moses had the staff of God in his hand, which represented the source or the power of God. But he had to know how and when to use it.
Yeah.
And when he used it improperly, it cost him.
Yes, it did.
You got to know how and when to use
Right.
the power. Okay, let me help you. Both spiritual and natural. So if you need a job, it might not be to pray and fast all night. It might be you have to go and fix your resume.
Come on.
Come on, Pastor. Right?
Part of it might be while you speaking in tongues over that job, you might need to go take a class.
Amen.
It is both and. It is not just spiritual all the time.
Okay.
Come on.
It's gonna get rough in here. When you need money, it might not be to pray and fast for a raise. You might just need to readjust what God has already given you.
Wow.
Let's get quiet. It might be honoring God with what He has given you. Knowing how to use what God has already placed within you. Moses says, I'm going to raise up my hand. I'm going to give God this praise on top of this hill. And as long as I'm doing that, I will prevail. For most of us, that's not our problem. Our problem happens in the next verse. The Bible says, as long as he held up his hands,
Yes.
he was winning. And when he dropped his hand,
They started losing.
they started losing. Most of us, it's like that teeter-totter. Hands up, hands down. Hands up, hands down. Praise your name, Jesus. Jesus, where you at? Lord, you're why is this happening to me? God, you are so faithful. God, why are you blessing everybody else with me?
Come on, Pastor.
Lord, you are a provider. I just speak it in the name of Jesus. Lord, the 15th done came and gone, and you still ain't blessed me with the right money.
Right.
It's a teeter-totter. We go up and down. We praise God one moment, we mad at God the other moment. We lift up God one moment, we take it down. We come to church and praise Him. We come to church and sit like a bump on the log. We come to church, lift up the name of Jesus. We come to church, I wish Pastor hurry up so I can go to brunch. We just teeter-totter. And we wonder why we keep experiencing these ups and downs, highs and lows. I'm blessed one day, and we can't figure it out. And God said, because it is spiritual, if you keep your hands up, I will bless the Lord at all. Y'all can see.
Yes.
The next verse is where we get caught. Because the next verse says, Moses' hands got heavy.
Yeah.
See, there's a difference between going up and down than when your hands just get heavy. When you're going up and down, you still kind of in control. You still got this. I don't know how you still got it when you...
Come on.
I don't know what's in us that even when we lose it, we still think we win. We just won't admit I need help. We just won't admit this just ain't it.
Yeah.
And so Moses' hands gets heavy. Because in the middle of all that's going on, watch this, it's not just about Israel fighting below, but it's also about God trying to teach Moses even on top of the hill. See, just because things seem to work out all right in your life, God still needs to teach you something.
Amen.
Just because you got a position,
That's right.
matter of fact, the higher the position, the more tests you're going to get.
Amen.
So Moses, the leader, he's the head. God is trying to teach the head something.
Right.
Bible says his hands get heavy.
Yeah.
What do you do when your hands get heavy? I don't want to do this no more. The people down below is dependent on Moses. But Moses says, I'm tired. Figure it out yourself. Y'all look complaining people. You ever been there?
Yes.
I'm tired.
Yes.
I'm done. Figure it out yourself. Tell folk at your job, just figure it out yourself. I'm going home. I'm turning my phone off.
What else?
I'm sorry, I'm somewhere.
You did. Snap back.
They text me at 12 o'clock last night, like, why? Figure it out. You ever just been tired?
Yes. Hello.
I just need a break. Just 5 minutes. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. 5 minutes. Moses said, I'm tired. My hands are heavy.
Yes.
The interesting thing is, that's not a sin. His hands have been up and down all day. This ain't no 5-minute battle. Them people been complaining for 40 years. Be tired.
Come on.
You want water? What I gotta do? I'm striking rocks and y'all complain. I'm listening to all y'all little petty problems.
Every day.
Now I can't eat because I gotta hold my hands up. I can't go to the Rams game with my family because I gotta stand on this hill, keep my hands up so y'all can be blessed.
Yeah.
I'm tired. The interesting thing is, when he gets tired, God had already sent him help.
Yes. All right. Yes. Thank God for that.
And the Bible says that when his hands got heavy, his friends noticed.
Yes.
Do you have any friends that notice you? Or have you ran them all away? Because the Bible says the first thing that happens is they notice that he's tired. His hands are heavy. So they went and got a stone and said, here, sit down.
Come on.
That's what some of y'all need to do. Go on and sit down.
All right.
Watch this. Watch this. The battle is still going on.
Yes.
And while you're having all your arguments with God,
It's still happening.
the battle is still going on.
Come on, guys.
God don't put the battle in time out just to come deal with it. You have to learn to deal with your stuff during the battle.
Yes. Yes.
See, most folk take time out from God and church. The time out. It's halftime. Ain't no halftime with God. You don't get to go in the locker room. But God's grace will allow you to rest while you're still in the race. God is so awesome. He don't stop the race, but he'll give you grace in the race.
Yes. Wow. Come on.
Y'all should have shouted right there. Just on your own.
I need to be here.
Put a rock on him so he can sit down and rest, but the battle is still going on. And they still need to win. God didn't tell Moses, you can go and put your hand down, go, I got this from here. No. God never showed up in this whole scene. God never shows up. Why? Because he had already made the way.
Yeah.
And because they noticed that when his hands were up, they were winning, they said, now that he's sitting down and resting, we still got to get his hands up. Because the war is still going on. We can't quit. So Aaron said, I got this hand. Her said, I got the other. And let's lift up.
Yes.
Amen.
Your hands will get heavy. But the battle is still going to go on.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
The old song used to to sit down. God don't give you options to quit. So you might as well figure it out and just tell somebody right now, my hands are heavy. I need somebody. And when all else fails, here's what I don't understand. I'm done. Here's what I don't understand. If folk can kill themselves all by themselves, how come we can't learn to hold ourselves up by ourselves? Y'all understand? To hang yourself.
Right.
All you gotta do is get something around your neck, hook it to something. When your hands get tired, you better find you some rope. Stop telling God, ain't nobody around to help me. God said, get some rope, help yourself. David said, I had to learn to encourage myself in the Lord. Stand on your feet. Lift your hands. How many of you got a battle you're facing? I want you to lift those hands. Both hands, if you can. You need one hand. Drop it. I want you to do something a little bit different, y'all. Thank you, Janine. Y'all got the cute, comfortable hands up. I ain't gonna get tired like this. I can hold out. No. I want the hands up. Yeah. We're gonna exercise. Y'all say, oh Lord. Some of y'all that had your hands up like this and I don't know.
I got pulled over last week.
It's already getting tired, huh? Yeah, because that's us. That's believe we get tired. And some of us get tired.